Welcome to the London Horror Movie Club. I'm horror writer Lauren Jane Barnett.
And I'm Chris Sapikowski, Lauren's older brother, and I've been watching horror movies since I was 8.
Join us as we talk about the wild, weird, and wonderful horror films set in England's eerie capital. Welcome, everyone. Chris and I have gone back to the 1950s this month, and we watched Horrors of the Black Museum. It stars Michael Gough. I have been pronouncing it, by the way, Michael Go for my whole life. I apologize to everyone. But it's also, this film features one of the most memorable opening kills in horror, I think. We talked about it a bit in our last podcast with J. Lo. And the film follows a series of murders throughout London where women are killed using really rare and unusual tools, all of which have a copy in Scotland Yard's Black Museum. But before we get into this bizarre and quite fun film, I want to know, Chris, what have you been watching lately? What's been going on?
Lately, I have not watched as much as I normally do, but I made an effort and I watched something that everyone in Britain has seen, I think, and I had heard about for my entire life, but I watched The Wicker Man. I had never seen
Finally!
it. I know, never had seen it, and I finally watched it.
Well, I have to know what you think. It's classic.
It was good. I mean, I really liked it, and I actually liked it more as it went on. There was, I think, I text when we text throughout, the month. Like we don't just talk here. I There was about 20 minutes into the movie where I was like, did I purchase the right movie here? There's like a dancing naked lady, like dancing through her room and pounding on the walls, and the kind. I'm like, I'm not sure I got the right Wicker Man. Maybe I missed like the second title, but no. Yes, I watched Wicker Man. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was kind of crazy. I always liked the pagan. Like it kind of gave me some. I'm assuming Midsummer kind of took some things from Wicker Man, and I liked that one as well. It's just weird, it's just creepy, it's out of the norm, so can always get behind that, and yeah, I enjoyed it. I feel like I'm now starting to catch up on some of the British,
Yeah.
like, fame like, this was famous no matter what, but, like, some of the British famous horror as well, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
I always like to ask because it's so, well, not so rare, but I because I have a couple times, but not very many people who I've met haven't seen it when they were much younger, and so aren't as involved in horror films because it's not too gory. So it's one you can see when you're younger. Do you think it holds up in the creepiness factor, or do you think over time it's sort of not as creepy having the like Christian guy questioning everything and things being kind of weird?
I didn't find it super creepy. I mean, like, I think it's funny that you said you can watch it when you're younger because
Lots of
I don't know, like,
sexual
maybe in America it's different. Where like that's like what I mean. Swearing was not a problem in our house, right? So like that's not something that we were, you know, that was second nature to it. It's our love language, but it's the nudity part was like something that those movies just we didn't watch a whole lot of. So maybe that was it. But I don't know if it was creepy. I definitely liked the fact that he was like staunchly, Roman Catholic, and he's like talking, even as he's about to burn alive inside Wicker Man. Obviously, no spoilers since I was the last person on earth to see the movie. But yeah, I mean, he's like quoting scripture and like praying to Mary and all that stuff, and so it was definitely very interesting. I loved how there's this group of people that are clearly bonkers that live on this island. And I mean, I get like, hey, it's like religion, it's their religion. So like you definitely can be like, hey, why can't they have their own religion? Even when they're discussing it. But like the schools are weird and like everybody's weird. And it's just like normal. It's like, okay, well, they make apples for everybody. It's cool.
I like one of
I
my
don't know.
favorite things about that film, obviously, every man I've ever talked to, Brett Eklund dancing naked is the big scene that they remember. But one of my favorite scenes is the one where you've got them all doing they're doing a parade through town and they go to this sort of like Stonehenge, this little circle,
Mhm.
and they have the crossed swords and everyone can like put their head through and you don't know who randomly is going to get beheaded. I loved that scene because I thought it was so tense when I first watched it. Did you find it tense too, or was that just me?
So that was my favorite. So I mean, as it should probably be, that was like my favorite part of the movie was like when he basically steals someone else's costume to get into the group that's going up to this Stonehenge thing, and then little does he know the ploy is all on him anyway. It's like it's been like baked for a long time. But yeah, the naked dancing scene was great. I give it 2 thumbs up. Like it was fine. But like as far as like a horror movie goes, like or as far as just a movie goes, that was a great scene because everybody's got their. It was just weird. Like you got the really big fat guy who's like waddling back and forth, and like so his costume is I forget what he was, but like
He's a guy on a horse. It's actually, I apologize, British listeners. I know it's a really famous pagan character. I'm American, but I
oh,
know
I'm
it's
sorry.
famous.
I'm
There's
not
a
trying to
guy on
crush
a
it
horse,
either.
and it is
Yeah.
famous. And I'm so sorry I don't remember. But yes, the guy on the horse.
Yeah, and so like he was like, he's walking and like there's just it was just creepy. Like I really could be like, oh my God, if I was there, like I would be like running. I wouldn't be trying to see. I mean, the girl's missing already. Like there's nothing I can do really. I mean, unless I find her, but like she's already missing. The damage has been done. So I would not be sticking around to find out what's going on at that point.
So the
I
real question,
certainly wouldn't be sticking my head in between like crazy people's swords.
right?
Yeah.
The other question I of course then have is, do you have any interest now in seeing the remake with Nicolas Cage?
Only only to see how they decided that we're going to make I can't no I mean yes I do and I will watch it at some point. It's not high on my list, but I have to see why they thought like why remake it. I thought it was pretty damn good. I mean like I don't think it needed a remake. It wouldn't have made it better. A remake isn't going to make it better no matter who the cast is, no matter what. Like it was a very well done movie from beginning to end.
Yeah.
So sometimes just leave well enough alone. But then Nicolas Cage, like I'll watch it. We'll see what happens. Have you
I
seen the remake?
I have.
Okay.
It does not need to be high on your list.
Okay.
um I had the same thought, and then afterwards even more so. It's one of those things that's made me more like, why do we choose to remake very popular movies? Why do we choose
Yeah.
to remake movies that were great? Why not remake movies that could have been better? That is a question that's beyond me why we do this. And I think that movie is a very good argument for not doing remakes.
Well, I mean that's an easy answer though, right? Like it's the easy way to make money. If it's a popular movie already, you remake it for like a next generation.
But The Wicker Man's a good example of this because it was, oh, actually, this is a spoiler alert for you, that it was so unpopular when it came out.
Oh, was
The
it
remake,
really?
because it's not a very good movie. It's not like appalling. I don't think you'll hate it, but it's not the
Oh
best.
no, but the original was good, like considered good, right?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yes, classic. I meant
Oh,
the
so they
Nicolas
were
Cage Wicker
grabbing on
Man.
the name and like we're gonna make it with the new generation, the next
Yeah.
actor. I don't know. If you're gonna
No.
go big and remake a movie that was considered a classic, and I know it's a classic because some of the people that I now know through social media, like make like in England at least, it's like people will go and watch like certain screenings of it, and so I knew this was a big thing when Wicker Man was re-released or remade with Nicolas Cage, and I haven't seen it yet, but Nicolas Cage, this wasn't leaving Las Vegas, Nicolas Cage, fresh off an Oscar. This was in between 7 other movies that he made one August.
Yeah.
Like this was like in the run of like everything went straight to video, like straight to streaming. So if you're gonna do it, go big enough where it's like it's gonna be back in the theater. You've got like
Yeah.
this A+ cast. I mean, because I recognize obviously recognize, and I don't know the name, and I'm really bad at it. I apologize with names, but like the leader of in Wicker Man, the leader of this like pagan community,
Christopher Lee.
he Christopher Lee, right? So he's in the Hammer films,
Yeah, he was Dracula. And
right?
the Mummy, but Dracula is the big famous one.
Funny enough, I've never seen the movie, but I've seen the crazy windswept hair in the suit in front of the
Oh
man.
yeah.
That scene just I think they show that like every Oscars, like when they go through like historical like movies like that, like the Gone with the Wind scene, and then you have like that's the scene from Wicker Man that they will always show. Like so I felt like I was seeing something I probably should have seen and maybe had seen and never remembered. I don't know, but definitely good. What have you watched this month?
Oh yeah, I will go into that, but I have to say, just as a tiny
Okay.
thing, I think the stars kind of aligned because it's 50 years of the Wicker Man this year. So like
Oh,
we
there
saw
you
it on
go.
the
See?
50th anniversary. So there you go. The timing was right. So what I have actually seen, I've seen a bunch of crap. I'm not gonna lie. Um, I saw a film I was surprised by that was good. It was one of those things you're like you're rummaging through like the car boot sales and garage sales for Americans, and you sort of see it and it's like a pound. You're like, yeah, cover looks good. I'll try it. The Watcher. Have you seen The Watcher? It's relatively recent, I think in the last 5 years. The woman she's from New York and she moves with her boyfriend who she met in New York, but his mother is Romanian. They move back there. And so she doesn't speak the language and she's kind of isolated. And then she feels like someone's watching her the whole time.
I feel like I've seen this, but I'm typing up The Watcher and I'm wondering if it's named something different here. The Watcher is a series that came out last year about a house in New Jersey, and that's not what we're talking about. So,
But
um,
I was really, while you're looking it up, I'll say I was
yeah,
really
sorry.
pleasantly surprised. So no, we'll feel free to look it up. I just want to say I was really pleasantly surprised by it. It was a lot more engaging than you thought, because you naturally sort of go, oh, okay, somebody's following you. That's such a classic, horror movies are made of it, thriller movies are made of it. Somebody's following you, someone's watching you. And they did it in a really cool way. I really liked it. I got really into it. The ending, I think they could have had a stronger ending. The ending's not bad, and that's just my personal preference, but it didn't deter me from recommending this movie to people. I think it's actually really quite good, and I
Okay.
hadn't heard of it before, so highly recommend.
I've seen the cover. I've pulled it up now. I know what you're talking about. They go to Hungary, Bucharest, Hungary.
Oh,
Is
it's
that where they're
Hungary,
at?
not Romania. Sorry. Yes. Yeah. Sorry.
No, that makes perfect sense because I was like, oh yeah, Naomi Watts is in it. No, it's a different person that looks like Naomi Watts on the cover. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I've seen the cover. I've not watched it yet. Is that so you would recommend that movie?
I really would. I think one of the really cool twists they put on the story is that she's non-native to the country, doesn't speak the language yet. She's learning it along the way. So there's a natural isolation, suspicion, feeling uncomfortable anyway. And so that ends up being far more important to the story than you initially realized. But I think that was such a clever twist, because when I initially went into it, I was like, oh, I've lived in another country. And they're like, oh, the language, right. That's a completely disbarring thing. You can't communicate with anyone. And so then of course you might think that your neighbor who goes to the same grocery store is following you. And so they take advantage of this thing you think is such a cliche and turn it into something different around that. And I think it's
Okay.
really good. I think you'd like it. The atmosphere
I
is
will
good.
watch it for sure. Yeah, no, I will watch it for sure. And like I said, I know where I can find this movie. Like I've seen the cover. Like I call it the movie poster, the box cover. Like I know what it is or where it's at. So like I'm definitely down for watching this and need something good to watch because I've realized that I'm going through a lot of crap. Like
Yeah.
I'm going through so many movies where like halfway through I'm like, nah, just not feeling it.
Had a movie like that the other day where it was set up to be everything I'd love in a movie. It's called Hellgate. Did you see it? It was from the 1980s. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, God, I think I have seen it. Yeah, it's been a long. I haven't seen it multiple times.
No, fair enough. It was in that sort of like Reanimator and things like that were happening. It was the same kind of feel. And I was like, oh, brilliant cursed ghost town with undead people, crazy girls. Like it was going to be great. It had all of the elements. And I don't know what they got wrong. Maybe it's that it didn't have like a sense of humor like a lot of the 80s things did. Maybe it was that it wasn't like as over the top. Not that it's not, but I don't know. Something about it didn't
Right.
work. And like midway through, I was like, oh God, I have to watch the end of this. Why? I have to stick through this for another 20 minutes. And it was only 20 minutes. It's the 80s. It's not a long film, but you're like, ah, damn
No.
it.
Isn't it funny? Like there's sometimes, and I don't know if it's just because we do like horror movies so much. I've got to see the end,
Yeah, you have to.
and there's times where I'm like, I don't want to see. Like I don't. I almost just want to. The internet's ruined it because you could technically go up and get like a synopsis of the whole film.
Yeah, I never
And I'm
do
like,
though.
but that's not the same. Like, I just took an hour of my time and I just need to see the last 20, 30 minutes of this movie.
Yeah,
But
that's
it's like, it hasn't grasped me the way that obviously the director and the writer were hoping to. Not saying that
yeah,
they're wrong. It could just not be doing it for me. But yeah,
yeah.
I've been there.
No, exactly. I will say it's not like it was Skinamarink where I was like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. But it was just I'm gonna constantly bring that back as the bar. I hated
That's your
it.
bar of just bad horror
Yes.
movies.
But yeah, you're right. When you love horror, you wanna watch it all the way through because you never know. Even if it has like just a couple scenes that you love, that's worth it in a movie.
100%. I agree. Yeah, if I can take 2 or 3 redeeming qualities out of a movie, I'm like, won't watch it again. But
Yeah, worth the time.
perfect example of that is I saw like Puppet Master, whatever. It was like one of the more recent ones, and I couldn't tell you, like, was not a memorable film. It was whatever the most recent Puppet Master was, and I wasn't a huge Puppet Master fan of like the whole genre. Like,
Okay, yeah.
it is. But one of the best kill scenes of any movie was in this movie. So like I will always fondly remember that kill scene from that movie. It
Awesome.
just puppets killing people. It's like, okay.
I am gonna
I'm
have
just not a,
to figure out which one that is though, because I love a good kill scene.
well, I can, I'll find the movie and I will let you know.
Awesome.
Actually, we'll look it up here real quick because I am online but yeah, you'll know exactly what kill scene I'm talking about. Um,
That's good. When you find a good kill scene or even just like a funny scene that you love, it stays with you. Even if the rest of the movie you're like,
I think it was called Puppet Master: The Littlest Reich.
cool. I'll watch it. I totally will.
Yep. So it was just nutso. But yeah, I would definitely would do that one. So
Speaking of kill scenes though, you have to admit I gave you a film with a lot of good kills this
you
time.
did, yes. Good call on that. Yes. Very interesting movie because I, it's dated.
It is.
It
Horrors of
is
the Black
dated,
Museum is not a long standing contemporary film.
but when it comes to kill scenes and for 1959 at that, when the movie was released, yeah, you've got acid baths, you've got guillotine murders.
A portable guillotine as well. Like, how cool is that?
Well, I mean, that's just ahead of its time, really. Like,
Yeah, that's true.
whoever thought I'm going to create? People need to travel with these guillotines. Like, we can't just have it in the town square anymore.
Exactly. I loved
So
it.
yes, So when did you first watch this movie, Horrors of the Black Museum?
So it would have been in my mid 20s. It was during my MA. So it was later in life. But it was one of those things where, you're chatting with your friends in MA and they're like, oh, you like horror movies. Oh, so do you like the Hammer Horrors of the Black Museum kind of movies? And I was like, well, I like Hammer. What's Horrors of the Black Museum? Because I don't think as Americans this was well known, was it? I didn't hear of it at all before I came
Never
here.
heard of it. No.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, what is it? So pop it on because it was easy enough to find. I think at the time it was on YouTube. It's not anymore, or maybe YouTube's even too early. But it was on something. Maybe it was a torrent site. But but we popped it on.
Sometimes we have to get creative, especially with lesser known older movies.
They do. But yeah, and I remember really liking it from the word go because you start and it's London and so you're like, oh, I recognize this, and he's driving by a Hyde Park, and then you get the woman gets the binoculars in the mail, and her friend is like, oh, you have a secret admirer, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be exciting, and then like blood everywhere, you're like, oh my god, it's right away it knew how to grip you. But that being said, I think I was so excited by all the kill stuff. I watched it again, obviously, to rewatch it, and then I was like, the plot's kind of hard to explain, isn't it?
It,
It's
yeah,
it's a great movie, but it's more.
there there are gaps in this. Not gaps. There are lapses of okay. So everyone probably has seen. If you haven't seen it, there's a rich author, right? And
Yep.
his name is Banfield. He's played by the same actor that played Alfred in the
Batman.
Michael Keaton Batman, and I think like the next three. And he writes about true crime that's happening. Right? Would that be fair enough to say? And he has an apprentice who apparently is paid very well because he puts up with this just weird guy. So rich, eccentric writer. But then you come to find out that like they're also creating a black museum in his he has this like beautiful mansion, probably in like some upscale part of London. And then if you just go downstairs, it's a dungeon. And it's like all castle brick walled and like but they have like all the different contraptions that I guess like they keep talking in the movie, they're rivaling the Black Museum at Scotland Yard, is that or
Yeah.
the museum that Scotland Yard has, because ours is better. I don't know why this guy Rick, his little apprentice, is just there, except you find out that he kind of hypnotizes him and has like this serum to make him Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. So like there's like this trail of like follow along with me as I try to tell you what's going on. But then he changes into like this the first time. So I watched it in color. Did you watch it in color or black and white?
I watched it in color.
So I was like, so there's a scene with the traveling guillotine that there is no rhyme or reason to like. It's one of the first murder movies, like serial killer murder movies, where like the, you murder someone and then you run right through the crowd.
Yep.
Like you're not trying to get away completely secretive or anything. You're just like, oh, they're all right there. Here we go, and we're running. And I'm like, oh, he's blue. Like, why is he blue? Who is this blue man? No, he's just supposed to be. And then they're like talking to the police. He was very old. He was an
Yeah.
old man.
So his
Rick is not.
makeup's supposed to look. So you're right, Rick is not. But the makeup was supposed to look old, and I think the colorization was trying to make him look like ashen, like old people get kind of pale, and instead he's just
I
blue.
think that was something that the change in the movie to color from black and white that did the opposite effect.
Yeah.
Very noticeable, and not just the guillotine scene, because if you're watching it, you're like, was he blue or was he old? Because then I started questioning myself. Like, maybe I saw this wrong until the love tunnel when he doesn't kill his victim in the dark of the love tunnel. No. He waits until he's at the exit with the lights and people, kills her with his instrument of choice. In this case, it was like the dagger. And he's blue again. And I'm like, okay, I'm just very weirded out. But yes.
Despite the strangeness, and I agree with that. The plot line is so weird. So
I liked the movie. Don't get me wrong.
That's
I
what I was
had
gonna ask.
fun watching the movie.
Exactly.
It was dated.
Yeah. The real question though is, would you recommend it to people? Because it's not just if you like it, if you think someone else would enjoy it.
I would be hesitant to openly recommend it to everyone.
Okay.
If you like horror movies, if you can if you like kind of like, I would call that, and I don't want to be offensive, but camp horror, like it's because it was like, I guess it's like more dated. So like if you like that kind of movie, 100% I would recommend it to you. It is worth an hour and 21 minutes of your time if you like movies. Would I let like my wife was watching part of it and she's like laughing and I'm like, well, I don't think that was supposed to be a laughter part. But but she doesn't watch those movies. So like in her defense, the camp overtook the storyline of what was going on. You
Yeah.
can't watch a movie when you dip someone into acid. And if we've all seen skeletons in like our science classrooms growing up, like at the very least, where there's like screws holding certain elements together, and you dip someone in acid with clothes on, bring them up, there's no clothes, there's no skin, there's no organs, but there's a fully connected skeleton together.
Yeah, fair enough. I think though, that you do have to be, or at least like the camp thing works with the film. It doesn't like hurt
It
it. I
does.
don't think. I think you can just watch it as a comedy, almost spoof of a horror nowadays, because it suits the whole thing. Everyone's a little bit. The Edmund Bancroft character is like over the top, Mr. Stuffy, thinks he's too good for everyone, and
Oh
thinks the
yeah.
police are the bumbling police. Rick is this weirdly brainless guy. Like I think the camp works with it. I think it goes.
I agree. No, I like I said, I enjoyed the movie. I'm very happy I watched it. I would have never come across it and said, "Hey, let's watch this." Um, yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. I wanted to see more of. So I started while I was watching. I started thinking of like how I would if I was going to remake this movie, what would I do differently?
Okay, I go for it because I think this is weirdly one of those movies where if you an update would be good because the base storyline is good. So what would you do?
Well, I would have the pawn shop antiquities woman. I really liked her character. She could be more.
Mm.
To me, I was getting vibes of this is really like I'm uneducated with Sweeney Todd, but like I've only seen the movie with Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham Carter.
Okay.
Like she's the Helena Bonham Carter to Sweeney Todd, right? Like because she knows what he's up to, and she's like now work. So like, but in this movie, when they find out that when she's like realizes like, hey, I know what you're doing with these items that I'm supplying you with. She comes across weird items. She sells them to Bancroft, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because he has a museum and he's like this well-known writer. Like it's like the famous person walking into your shop. Well, then she tries to blackmail him, and that's the end of that story. I would probably go a little bit more with that. Like I would probably build on more of that. But yes, you could make it way darker, way more like Seven, the movie Seven with Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, where like the murders are more dark and there's a reason behind them. I mean, it could just be that there's the Black Museum and like there's these are the items that were in the yard or in
Mm.
Scottish yard. I don't
Scotland
know.
Yard, yeah.
Scotland Yard, sorry.
Weirdly though, I think that's one of the strengths of the movie because like it's really clever for a crime writer to go, okay, how do criminals get caught? There's a motive. So I'm
Mhm.
just gonna randomly kill people in the city and make the police look stupid because there's no connection between me and some random girl. Up until obviously he kills Joan, who's the guillotine one, the one who's his girlfriend who he breaks up with, and then,
Mhm.
but like all the rest of them are random, and I thought that was really clever because that does make it a lot harder not having it. What do you think? Do you think you'd keep that?
Yeah, yeah, no, you totally could. I do think that it's very hard today because especially in England where CCTV is so rampant, try killing anybody randomly and getting away from it. Like your area, I mean, Jack the Ripper, we touched on this where we like the thought is that Jack the Ripper wasn't part of Whitechapel. Like he
Mm.
was coming into Whitechapel and then leaving. So now you're like, where do we look in this metropolis for a killer that's only killing this one area?
Yeah,
But
that's
now
true.
you could just be like, oh, here he is on this camera. And then we're going to go to this camera and we watch him cross the road and go down the road here. And then we go to this camera and you can follow him all the way back to the house. So that part is always a little strange. So you watch like the 1959 movies and I'm like, but they made no hide. They did not hide it at all because they're just like running through the people. We're not trying to hide.
That was the other thing is that so the hypothetically the Jekyll Hyde thing makes Rick look really different.
Hmm.
So fair enough, he can't be noticed. I had to watch this. I've watched it 7 or 8 times. I had to watch it at least 3 or 4 times before I realized there's a line, and it's one line. I'm not sure whether this was well thought enough through in the writing, where Michael Goff's character, Edmund Bancroft, explains that the serum he gives him that makes him Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde also is an obedience serum, so that he'll do whatever Edmund Bancroft says.
Huh.
It is a line. It is one line. He says, "I've let your doses or something like that go on too
I
long. You're no longer being obedient. I need to give you your serum." Like that's it. And that's it. And that's your whole explanation for why Rick is letting him get away with this. And I thought it was such a shame because why are there not more obedience serums? There's truth serums in like every freaking movie
everything
and
right.
TV show. Where's obedience serum? This is a
No
great
kidding.
invention.
Wait, now you're on. So I knew that technically what the serum, like the serum that he shot him up with, he was like, you're off on your dosage, and he started talking about like the truth between Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and so I kind of got the fact that this is how he was controlling him, but I didn't really put it together that like he had created this because he did say like the best tool in the museum or the best weapon in the museum was actually this, and he shows like the vial of serum. I, it was good. I mean, it was definitely one that I kept thinking like you could remake this and make it really good, and you could go in many directions. If you want to do one of those super gore horror movies, you could.
Oh God, yeah.
If you wanted to do a thriller that wasn't very gory, but you wanted to encapsulate like just that thrill and like that anxiety inducing, you could do that as well. So the story is definitely there for sure.
All right, who would you cast? Who would be your Edmund Bancroft bad guy, and who would be your Rick assistant?
Is it going to be a British film again?
No, you're American. You can make it American. If you want to make it British, though, go for it. It's a classic.
Well, because I the whole time, and I didn't know that this was Alfred, the guy who played Alfred, and I don't know his name. I guess I
Michael
could.
Goff.
Yep, Golf. Yep. He I could I kept seeing the guy who played Gandalf. Is it Ian McClellan?
Ian McKellen,
McKellen.
totally.
So I kept seeing him, and I think it was like the white streaks because he had like this like American mafia Sopranos style haircut, like to me. But like I was like, okay, so it's like this like kind of I just picture like I seen Ian McKellen on Graham Norton, like or clips from Graham Norton when he has like the suit on, like maybe like just a t-shirt or something. But like
Mm.
he would be a good like, hey, I'm a famous horror writer. Like he doesn't have to be, and he's such a good actor. He could probably carry whatever you want to do. So I see him, but then you need maybe if you want to make it big production, you just put Tom Hardy in it as
Oh,
Rick.
wow. Okay. That's a badass trick because Rick's kind of a nothing. Tom Hardy's like an enforcer kind of guy.
But Tom Hardy can play nothingness and then turn it
Yeah.
like I feel like he's one of those guys that can play. I like Tom Hardy. I think he's a good actor. And yes, he is a bigger kind of enforcer, like tough guy action film. But like I think if you put him in the suit, like
Mm,
Matt Damon, Tom Hardy are kind of the same. Like the American version of Tom Hardy to me is Matt Damon. So I don't know, put them, and they're just kind of like this obedient guy to this doctor, and like he's going to inherit this whole thing one day, so he's just being obedient.
yeah. And then
I
Serum,
don't
he
know how you
becomes.
go. I don't know how you make a movie today with some of like the reason Rick has to kill his fiance is the 20-minute or the 10-minute speech of how women are horrible and you can't let them know anything. Like, not sure how that flies today, but
I mean, this is the thing though, is absolutely you can't do it. But I think you could very easily make a not sexist argument for, hey, we're murdering people, your fiance can't know about it. I think that's a totally reasonable reason to kill someone.
yeah, I was gonna say because the obedience term doesn't necessarily. He obviously knows what he's doing, Rick.
Yeah.
It doesn't make you forget. Like you're not under a trance.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess you could flip that around. That's when I watch these movies that are older. I think we did the same with Night of the Demon, where I was like, "Whoa!" Like there's just like it's almost shocking when the Indian doctor comes in and he's like so apparently like caricatured Indian. And it was the same thing with this. Where I'm like, women are evil. They can't keep their trap shut even if they wanted to. And you're like,
Oh.
wow. I mean, you release that movie with that speech today, half the people are picketing. It's on the news.
You release that film with that speech today, and it's going to be one of those, what is it, Proud Boy films? Like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, we're getting our tiki torches and we're gonna go watch this movie. You know, like, okay, great. Yeah. But yes, obviously if you remake it, you're gonna change things, kind of keep it more up to date. But I think you could I kind of kept getting 7 vibes from it just
Hmm.
because seven has the seven deadly sins, and the killer's killing people that way. And this guy, he's killing people in a specific way.
Yeah.
So you could wrap more around it. Now, but I knew nothing about the Black Museum of Scotland Yard.
Oh, no way.
No.
Okay.
So if that is a more well-known fact, then the story does mean you had told me about it. So I did know about it when I went in, but I had never heard about it until we started mentioning this movie.
So interestingly, the writer who wrote it came up with it, and I think even the director Arthur Crabtree, they'd like talked about it, was because Scotland Yard has what they call the Black Museum. It's not like a museum like you or I could go into, but it's a collection of all the serial killers, various things. So it's like letters that were from Jack the Ripper, but then it's weapons from other killings and stuff like that. And an article had come out in I guess a couple years before this about the Black Museum and what they had in them, just like a normal Guardian article, Daily Mirror article, whatever. And so the writer saw this and was inspired to write it. And I didn't realize it was that unknown a thing either, because he obviously hadn't heard of it before. But then if you watch horror movies, there's like in the 50s, this article must have influenced loads of people, because there's also Man in the Attic, which has a scene in Scotland Yard's Black Museum, which is a Jack the Ripper movie, and you see like the Jack the Ripper character in the Black Museum, and there's like a noose hanging on the corner. It's not subtle at all. It had like a spate of films that were fascinated by the Black Museum in the 50s and then
Okay.
disappeared again. It has, I don't think it's shown up again in another film in any other
Hmm.
decade. So I
So
don't
maybe that
know.
does need to, maybe someone does need to kind of re-up maybe not even the same way this way, remake this movie, but do something more up to date with the Black Museum.
I think we should, because especially if other people don't know about it, it's kind of a creepy idea, and it's in and of itself. All the serial killers' tools and gloves and letters.
100%. Oh yeah, it's so crazy. We Side note really quick. So last we were talking, I traveled down towards Wilmington, North Carolina, which for people over in England, it's kind of in a weird way like oh, I'll blank on the name, but Alex Churchard, that area where he films, where he said there's a lot of
Essex.
independent films that film there. Wilmington has a lot of Hollywood films and independent films that film in and around that area. Maximum Overdrive, if you've seen that horror movie,
No
was filmed
way.
there. I Know What You Did Last Summer was filmed in that area. Halloween Kills, like those movies were filmed there. But there used to be a museum called the Museum of the Bizarre. And it was kind of not, it's not the serial killer's weapons, but there is a back wall. For $3, you walk into the Museum of the Bizarre, and they have dioramas of Mothman or of the Swamp Thing. They have the doll from the movie Annabelle, because Conjuring was shot. Some of the Conjuring was shot in that area. They have what I can only imagine is a replica, because the real one is in that Lorraine Warren's house. But the real Annabelle doll, like that was the story was based on. So there's like a replica of that. But if you go on the back wall, there is Jeffrey Dahmer's yearbooks, and there is, I don't know if it was BTK, but there are different things from serial killers that were purchased at auction. And I always thought that was very creepy. And so that Black Museum, going back to that, where my head was going back to that is very creepy, that there is a room somewhere in Scotland Yard that has,
Creepy
different
serial
serial
killer.
killers.
Yeah, it's very weird. It's a clever idea for the movie. I kind of liked the idea from the go that the author, who knows all about this crime stuff and has been, he's close with the police, he's been there. He goes, "Oh, I'll make these person's weird binoculars and this person's hatchet," and like it's a creepy idea, but that makes it a cool horror idea.
Yeah, no, I think so. I definitely think so. And for it being the fifth, I actually did also think, going to the movie itself, I thought for 1959, because we watched Night of the Demon, which wasn't too much earlier than that, I don't believe.
No, it's, I mean, it's within 5 years for sure.
Okay. this was like this had to be considered like a gore slasher film compared to the
Massively.
time at that time.
Oh yeah, it was rated X at the time, which was like the highest horror rating you could get. It was definitely supposed to be. And with the like really thick red blood everywhere and on the carpet
Yep.
and stuff, it was supposed to be really gory. Even though you don't actually see too much, but you see a lot for the time.
I think for the time there were people who were like, "This is horrible. This is just filth. Like, why are you watching this?" Yeah, like no, it's good. I mean, I definitely see it. It just I'm now watching it 60 years later, or
Yeah.
God, 70 years, 60 years later.
Yeah.
I can do math. Um,
It's on your phone now,
so
you
yeah,
see.
no, thank you for recommending it. I definitely, if you listen to the podcast and you're looking for a horror movie that you have not seen before, you can't go wrong with this. It is going to be a little bit more difficult to find.
Yeah, I'll grant you that. We both, just for our listeners, we both ended up having a really hard time finding it. It used to be on Prime, and that's why I'd recommended it. And Prime's evidently taken it off in both the US and the UK. So it is a little hard to find. But if you like your camp old school Hammer style horrors, it's up there.
It definitely was up there. It's definitely one that I'm glad I watched, and I can say I saw it. I mean, it was, and I thought it was very British.
It is, that's true. Oh, we haven't mentioned this. It is a super London-y horror movie. London's
Hmm.
all over this place. Does it feel very London to you?
I mean, it definitely did. They have. There's a couple scenes where you're like, oh, there's some double decker buses that they threw in there just to kind of like. It didn't bring anything to the movie, but I was like, okay, yeah. But they actually mentioned they made mention of, well, this is London with their killers. There's a line in that movie, and then we mentioned it
I
when we
wrote it
watched
down.
Frenzy, because there was this people in the bar in Frenzy talking about like, London loves a good murderer or a good serial killer, and I'm like, this is just a London and an England thing where it's just like if someone's got to be causing mi- criminal mischief somewhere, and
Yes.
that's what you guys know. So you wrote it down. You said.
I wrote the line down. It's we can always depend on London to provide another murderer.
There you go. I caught that in my head, and I was like, yeah, because I think that was when they're like, "Oh, we caught the guy." Because in the movie,
Well,
they
someone
say they caught the
confesses.
killer. Yeah, he's a fantasist confessor. Where he's like, "How did you kill him?" He's like, "With my strong hands." And you're like, "Well, she was stabbed through the eyeball." So, I'm not sure your strong hands did that, but yeah. So they catch this guy, but then Bancroft, who is the mastermind of all this, like comes and he's like, "No, I want to see who you caught. Like, I need to figure out who this guy is." But then I think that's when he says it, where like I was like, "Oh, it's totally like I guess someone in London, if there's a serial killer going on, it would almost be met with not fanfare, but like intrigue, like where you're like, oh, what's going on now? Like I could see where that would be a big thing because there's always something.
Yeah, that's true. No, I like that. Actually, that's a good like line for London. There's always something.
There's always something. And it could be anything, good, bad, indifferent. Like there's always
Always
something.
something. So what
My
else have you been watching other than Black Museum? What else has been going on?
Not much. I mean, we like I said, we're kind of with my age children. We're getting back into the sports swing of things in school. So I have not watched a whole lot of horror. I do know what I would like to recommend next,
Yeah,
but
yeah. What do you want to watch next? I'm up for it.
well, it's a little bit older, but it's one that I think everybody's seen. And I thought about, I was like, I want to talk about the movie because I really like this movie. After I saw Wicker Man, I was like, okay, I want to go down that same road, but I know I've seen this one. I want to watch Clockwork Orange.
Awesome. Oh, yes, Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah,
Amazing film. Epic film as
I
well.
could talk Stanley Kubrick, and especially Clockwork Orange, probably for as long as the movie is.
Love that. Yes,
So
please.
I would like to do that one. Now we actually have a special thing going on
Next month.
for October.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking we can tell people what we're doing for October if we want.
Yeah, go for it. Tell them what we're
Okay,
doing for
so
them.
we are trying and we are working towards having a week of Halloween. being that Halloween is in October, of interviews. We have got some great interviews coming up. We're talking with directors, we're talking with writers,
Yeah.
director of photographies, and special effects people.
It's gonna be
So
mental.
it's going to be great, and I can't wait for you guys to hear it, because just from the interviews, I'm jazzed after we like talk with them. Like I'm kind of like on cloud nine the rest of the day, because it's just always a lot of fun, and the conversations seem to be going really well. I hope it kind of comes through on those podcasts. But I'm thinking maybe for we stick with that for October, and then for November maybe we do Clockwork Orange.
That sounds perfect. And yeah,
And
I definitely think you guys will be excited for October because, like you said, we have a lot of different interviews. We have directors of photography. We even have, because we had talked with Dan earlier about his documentary on spook houses, we have a team that do spook houses coming to talk to us. So we have a ton of different things going on for October. So you will not be missing your movies. Trust us. We've got plenty to listen to.
we got plenty. Yeah. Are you going to go to any of the spook houses over there? Come now that
Uh,
we're getting into October.
So this is embarrassing to admit. I scare super easily in person. Like I'll be in the kitchen and someone just like says, "Hey, Lauren," and I'll go, "Ah!" So I'm not so much the spook house person.
See, I find that surprising, and the reason I say that is I grew up with you. I know that you scare easily, like just as the jump scares.
Oh yeah.
But we went when we visited you. We went to London Bridge Experience,
That was the one.
which to me felt almost like a haunted house. Like, so, I mean, it wasn't, but it was. I mean, it was definitely fun. Don't get me wrong, but it was. It felt, and you were just like, I was waiting for you to just turn into one of the people that was working there and start scaring like the other people. Thank God there was like a 10-year-old kid that was in the group with us,
Oh my
or
god,
I would
yeah.
have been too scared. I had to act tough because I was the biggest, fattest person in the room. And then you got this little kid who's like, this is boring. I'm like, you're out of your mind, kid.
No, but you must remember at the end they have this like if anyone hasn't been on it or has heard of it, they have like a dead drop, like a guillotine drop that's supposed to happen at the end. And I totally shouldn't have done this. You really shouldn't. I don't recommend it. But they're like, "Oh, if you have a heart condition, don't go to the last room." And I was like, "Oh, I have a heart condition." Skipped the dead drop. I was like, "I'm gonna die. No, I'm not doing this." So
Oh my
skipped
gosh.
the room, and you guys did the dead drop, and I was like waiting for you in
I
the
do
spare room.
remember that. No, I do remember that now. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. The air. I still occasionally have very visceral nightmares about the air cannon. That we went around like a corner and an air cannon hit you, and I was like, "Oh God, I've been shot,"
So
and I
yeah,
just froze.
I was definitely like, there were rooms when you go into the rooms and they're like, here's this judge, and he's like looking down at you and he's yelling at you or he's doing whatever. And they have like the Jack the Ripper area and they're talking about that. Or and they just take you to different places, right? And that was cool. But there was a section, and the air cannon was one of them. And then you're also in like this dark room with like basically punching bags that are like,
Oh
or
yeah.
air things, and you're trying to get through it all. And that's where it went from like museum of like crazy dark history of London to like almost like a haunted house. And I'm like, well, now I don't even know how to get out of this thing.
Yeah.
Like, health and safety in London is way different than here. Like, I can't see an exit sign. I have to just go through it to get out. So here we go.
Yeah,
But
so
yeah,
yeah. So
which
no,
also
are you?
comes back to the tombs, because isn't the tombs that we watched and talked about with
Dan.
Dan, we that was the movie. The tombs was like, were real murders happening in a place like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like that kind of scare place, and then
Yeah,
murders happen. So we'll obviously have to ask the guys who are doing the spook houses that we're having on if they've
right.
ever had anyone die on them. They're
And
not gonna
God
like
forbid they
us.
have, and like, I mean, because you would think that's a great setup for a movie. Like, have do you ever have someone that's like really tough that like just freaks out completely, like
Yeah.
loses all their bravado, and then you're like, do you wish you had that on camera? Because I would watch that.
Yeah, seriously. I think a lot of us. Oh, also though, in addition to all the things they have to look forward to at an interview, what are
Yes.
you looking forward to watching? Because you had the great recommendation of Talk to Me last time, which I haven't seen yet. So you've always got the best recommendations. What are you looking forward to watching?
Oh, I have heard, and I don't know the date that this is coming out, that they're redoing Exorcist.
Yeah, yeah. It's
I
like the
am bi
rebirth or something. But yeah.
Yeah, I will watch it. I'm hoping for the best. Um, Exorcist movies can be very good, can be very scary. I grew up Roman Catholic. I am Roman Catholic. So there's something in the back of my mind where I like them. Like I like the movie Stigmata, which kind of has the kind of the same feel. I also actually this month watched The Pope's Exorcist with Russell Crowe.
I did
Not
too.
as big a fan. Not I mean it was a fine movie. There was plenty to keep you entertained. It wasn't what I was hoping for. I think I had prejudged what it was going to be. And also listening to Russell Crowe speak in an Italian accent throws me off. Little things will throw me off of a movie, and it's a me problem, not the movie problem. So I understand that. But yeah, I'm actually looking forward if it's called Rebirth. Yeah, the new Exorcist movie that's coming out, 100% will watch it.
Me too, honestly, because similarly, I love a good exorcist movie. I love faith-based movies anyway. Like Saint Maud is not an exorcist movie, but she's like r- crazy devoted and thinks she's battling a demon. Like I find that
Mhm.
so fascinating. So yeah, I'm definitely down with that. Have you seen Chucky the TV show?
I just saw something yesterday about that there was a Chucky TV show.
So I discovered the Chucky TV show while in the like last week or so, 2 weeks or so.
Okay.
And so I've been watching season one, and the thing I'm looking forward to most is season two of Chucky. It's not like we grew
Ooh.
up with Chucky and we love
Yep.
it, and it's not as awesome as the movies or the original movies, but it's good. Like it's still really watchable. It's Chucky as you know Chucky. It's I enjoyed it. You know, you just sit back and you watch, and it's a very easy watch. And you know, all the cool people that you want to die in interesting ways. Chucky's creepy as always. I thought it held up really well, or at
So
least
the show is delivering what you want from Chucky.
exactly. I mean, yeah, it's updated, so it's not like it's teenagers now instead of but I thought it was great. I really am enjoying it. So if you have a
Oh,
chance to stream it, I've been liking season one. I'm on 2 episodes from the finale, and I'm liking it a lot.
okay. I will watch that because I need something to watch and I can't just wait for, you know, Exorcist Rebirth to come out. Like I do, I will go and reach out, find stuff to watch. But yeah, I will watch that for sure because I Chucky gave me nightmares as a kid.
Oh yeah, yeah, and they've kept him creepy. I mean, I think that's the thing I was most impressed with is that it felt like the Chucky I grew up with, and that was something I was a little suspicious of. I was like, it's gonna be hard to capture that still, and I think they did a good job. I like
It
it.
did. Okay, cool.
So,
Well, wow.
yeah.
So we got some things to watch. Like we got to watch The Exorcist Rebirth. You've got to. I got to watch Chucky this series. Anything else that you've seen movie wise coming out preview wise? I feel like Halloween time there should always be something, and I'm just missing it this year. Like there's nothing that I'm like cannot wait for that movie on this day.
Yeah, I the same. I have anybody who's follows me on Instagram recently, there were pictures of me as a vampire, a feral vampire. And the makeup artist who did that, very talented woman named Tequila, she does loads of makeup. She's doing Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2. And like a little teaser just came out for that. Yeah. But I think that's after Halloween. I think it's closer to it might even be next year, but I think it's after Halloween. So that's the only other one I've heard of other than the Exorcist film.
Yeah, there's another movie coming out. Actually, when you said that with Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, there's another kids type movie I've heard about coming out.
Okay. Why
And
don't we put it on Facebook if we can't think of it? Because
I
our
will. No, I
Facebook
will
followers
find it. I'll
can.
put on Facebook and Twitter. Um, But yeah, I know that's not great for a podcast. There's something that something else was doing with something, and it's coming out on some date. Stay tuned. And you're like, what the heck are you doing? Sorry about that, everybody.
No, but what'll happen is the magic of editing is you will let me know what it is, and I'll put up a little in the video London Horror Movie thing, like the thing we couldn't think of was this, so
There
they
you
won't know.
go.
Well, they'll
Yes.
know because I've said it, but there you go.
Well, yeah, so great recommendation this month for
Awesome.
Horrors of the Black Museum. I'm happy that I watched it. It definitely was fun kind of going back and enjoying like a almost like a period piece of horror, like, right? Because it's that I could see where families were like, you can't watch this movie. It's a horrible movie. Like, it's like what you would say about your kids want to watch Hostel now. And but looking at it now, you're like, wow, that's really tame, but great story. And I really enjoyed that movie. So I thought that was a great pick. Way to pick me up after I dropped 2 just bombs of movies where I was like, oh, if one of them was compared to Skin and Marink, we knew I was choosing something incorrectly.
But you've absolutely swings and roundabouts totally the opposite direction. Clockwork Orange is an amazing, sensational film, and we're gonna have so much to talk about.
Yep.
Because
And that'll be November's episode.
That's November. And then obviously you guys will hear our voice tons, but hopefully a lot of other people's voices because you'll tune into all of our various ones.
Yes.
We'll make sure to let you know and tease who's coming on. We want to keep it a secret for now, so you're excited about who's up, but we have some amazing interviews all week for up till Halloween. It's going to be a lot of fun. Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you, Chris. As always, it's been great.
Always great to talk to you.
See you guys next time. If you want to share your thoughts about this episode, please head to our Facebook or YouTube pages. We're grateful to Cucurbit, who made our music. Thank you for listening, and please join us next time for the London Horror Movie Club.